Okay, welcome to part 2 of Heartbreak Video. I just realized after talking for another half hour, 45 minutes, didn't record. Lovely. So, what you missed, time-lapse camera then, is I finished the occlusion rim. What I was trying to say, and it was missed out, that once this is taken off the model, do not go in here with an alcohol torch. Do not go in here with a hot spatula. Make this borders 2-3 millimeters, the same symmetrical dimension as a finished denture. It can engage the undercut slightly, the wax, and this is 22 roughly from, distal of the central lateral area. This is 10 degrees angled forward to compensate for the atrophy of in and up of the maxillary ridge. The rim is parallel to the model, parallel to the base, which will hopefully be parallel to the occlusal plane. And the same for the lower. Here, the dentist is going to mark midline, canine line, smile line. But before doing so, the first thing they're going to do is establish, you just simulate the patient's head here. This is the Fox plane to simulate the plane of occlusion, so we're not hanging down this way, or hanging down this way, or front, or back. The dentist will establish the occlusal plane. The occlusal plane will be most likely parallel to the ridge, parallel to the base of the model, parallel to Kemper's plane, which is synonymous with the term ala tragus line. Kemper's plane, ala tragus line. The dentist will establish vertical dimension of that. Vertical dimension, how long? Naturally, older the patient, less teeth. Younger the patient, more teeth. The length of the lip, the tautness of the lip for labial support. If they want a lot of labial support, that's a Botox thing. Any kind of overextension of the labial flange will be on the orbicularis or kind of grimace will dislodge the denture. So, once the occlusion rim is established for length, contour, midline, canine line, smile line will help us dictate the length of the teeth. The dentist will introduce the Facebook record. Facebook record now. Let's get to the Facebook record. This is the Facebook. This is one type of Facebook. The spring bow. This goes in the patient's ear. And this positions the maxilla in relation to the condyle. So we'll use this on our semilar adjustable articulator. Transfer jig. We're not going to do this at school, but just tell you what it's for. You need to understand it all. And transfer jig to transfer the Facebook record from the spring bow to the transfer jig to the articulator. What is it doing? It is transferring the position of the maxilla in relation to the condyle. Let's move this up a little bit higher so we can see what's going on here. Transfer the maxilla in relation to the condyles. Now, if we don't have a Facebook record, which is our first of 3 registrations, then we have average value mounting. This is the jig that you've created in class. And the jig is an average value to mount the maxillary in Bonwell's triangle. Bonwell's triangle is an equilateral triangle, which is 110 millimeters between 2 condyles. 110 millimeters, you can see there's a hole in your articulator here, which most articulators, if I put it this way, is an equilateral triangle. Point A, B, C. Equilateral triangle. That the midline of the centrals will be at the apex of the anterior part of this equilateral triangle. So average value mounting. So if we were to use a plane line articulator, this here is, I would assume, 110 millimeters. So if I was to mount this model, two centrals, I just did it by eye, 110 millimeters. So therefore the arc of opening is average for group function, left lateral, right lateral, and protrusive movements, which is group function, which we're going to do with our semi-adjustable articulators. So face bow transfer, most of them will not come to the laboratory. You won't get these face bow transfers. But that is what the first registration is. Second registration is centric relation, which is the bite. And the third registration is protrusive to program the condyles. So when we look at our when we look at our articulators, the first measurement here, there's between 0 and 25. This is Bennett shift. And Bennett shift is the this angle here, if I can show you here, the lateral angle, the lateral shift. For argumentative sake, we can set it at 15. It'll most likely stay there for a very long time. We can do some math here. That there is a formula for the Bennett shift. And the Bennett shift is L equals H over 8 plus 12. L is lateral shift, the Bennett shift. H is the average of condyles, the condylar angle. Average of the condyles. We need to program our articulators to find out the condyles. The first few cases I will give you a condylar guidance, so therefore you'll be able to establish the correct overjet, overbite, incisal guidance, degree of the teeth. Average condylar guidance. So we'll do an example here. Average 30 of each side. So the average of 30 on each side would be 30. And we need to do 30 divided by 8. 30 divided by 8. So let's say 30 divided by 8 plus 12. So we've got 3.75 plus 12 equals 15.75. So we will go to our articulator and set the Bennett shift at 15. Now, if we have something extreme, let's say 10 on one side, 38 on the other. The average is 24 divided by 8 plus 12, and that equals, I need my calculator. Well, no, 16, 24 is 3, it's 15 even. Then these are the condyles, 10 on one side, 38 on the other. How did we get this? Protrusive bite records that we program our articulator, or mandibular tracings. To come out with the average of the condyles divided by 8 plus 12 will give you this Bennett shift. No, not BS. BS, Bennett shift. If you look at our articulator, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. If you look at our articulators, there is an incremental here, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Now, you can see there is a demarcation of 10, 15, 20. You can barely move that between the two. So this will be our Ronson cooker. Set it and forget it. 15. So, what have we gone over a bit so far? Manufacture of the maxillary rim. Maxillary rim will be mounted on your jig with average value mountings because we do not have a face bow transfer record. Your Bennett shift will be set at 15, and your jig will be trimmed to the plane of occlusion of the Balkwell angle, which is right here, which we're going to discuss in our PowerPoint, which is roughly 22 degrees on average. Now, how did we get this Bonwell's triangle? We got to go all the way back to the Civil War. Yes, the North won. But they had the luxury of all these cadavers, Confederate cadavers. Dr. Snow took these Confederate cadavers and did some average cranial measurements and came up with the equilateral triangle, or Bonwell's triangle, which was later introduced by Dr. Bonwell, with 110 millimeters. Now, we can only hope that the Confederates had a family tree of more than one branch. But it has been corroborated globally that 110 is the average. Again, we can look at our plane line articulators. These are 110, and average value 110 is the midline of the centrals. So Carrie has developed that puck that you poured up so you could make your jig to mount your maxillary occlusion rim exactly in Bonwell's triangle with the bulk wall angle in relation to the condyles, so we can have an average group function. So we'll continue this in class, and we'll break it down even further. Thanks.